One. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the special episode of For the Love of Books podcast, featuring indie and small press authors with host Emma Pulova. With the National Novel Writing Month just around the corner, we've created this discussion panel, Power Your Nano 2021, to answer your questions about the 50K word writing challenge coming up in November. Are you all ready for NaNoWriMo 2021?
Yes.
Yes, we are. And the Nano expert panelists are authors Jean Davis, Sara Shanning, and Kristine Brickey. Welcome. Hi, Jean. Can you give us your Nano background along with the most recent title that you have written during the last 50K challenge?
Yes, so I'm Jean Davis. I write sci-fi and fantasy. I have been a Nano participant. This will be my 16th year. I have won, as it were. I've made my 50,000 words all but 1 year, which I was building a house, so I gave myself a pass on that one. But yeah, so I write something every year, and that becomes my project that I work on for the rest of the year and keep going. So my project that I wrote last year was called The Minor Years. It will be out at the end of this month. I was hoping today, but that didn't quite happen because life. So this is a book from my series, and it will be out at the end of this month. That was last year's Nano project.
Excellent. Sara, how about you?
Well, I don't have 16 years under my belt, but I started in 2018. My husband's best friend is an author as well. So we decided to have a little competition, and I won because I like to win. And that was the beginning of my writing career, really, because I had stopped writing since high school. And then last NaNoWriMo, I worked on Seal 6 in my series. This is it here. And finished that. And this year I've got plans for the 7th in that series.
Great. Thank you. Christina, how about you?
I began my first NaNoWriMo year was 2008. So I've been doing this for 13 years.
Whoa.
There were a couple years after my son died in 2010 when I was unable to write. So it was kind of terrifying. I had to really fight to find my words and my writing voice again. But as a result of Nano, I have 2 published novels, Flowers for Rodney, which I wrote in 2009, but wasn't published until 2014 because writing is hard. And they said she was crazy. I wrote in 2014, 15, and was published in 2016. But my most recent Nano is titled, I'll abbreviate it here in case there's sensitive ears, but it's F It, I'm 50. And I actually I wrote 2 full drafts of it during different Nano years, but they just turned into what I call puke drafts. They were just rough drafts. It wasn't the right story. And I finally figured out that I had 3 main protagonists. So I then spent 2 more Nanos writing the draft for my newest novel, and it is with my beta readers now, and I'm hoping to have it out for the Women's Expo in February.
Thank you. Let's start off with the Q&A. My first question, and the most common question I get asked, is how do you find the time to write this many words each day? Jean?
I usually start writing in the morning. I just get up and start writing. So my brain is like, this is the thing I'm doing. I'm not worrying about work or what I'm making for food or anything else. I just sit and do that. So I usually try to write for an hour or 2 in the morning. And then as I can pick it out through the rest of the day, sometimes it's 15 minutes here or there, 10 minutes here and there, and it all adds up.
It sure does. And your daily quota?
I aim for the good old 1,667 words, but when I'm attempting to overachieve, I try to get 2,000 just to build a buffer.
How about you, Sarah?
Well, I just commit. My first year I did it to win, but I like to win, so I've made it a goal ever since. And I set my word goal at 1,700, and I wake up in the morning knowing that's my goal. And I kind of like Jean, whenever there's time, I will sit down and start. And it's my husband's a hunter, so Deer Widow's Weekend. NaNoWriMo is really I'm like, I'm writing, leave me alone. And my family leaves me alone, and I will stay up until it's done. And if I don't finish, which doesn't happen very often, then I will just carry it over till the next day and do both of the word quotas at the same day. So.
Okay, you, Kristine?
Well, when I was teaching, this is my 4th year of retirement, but when I was teaching, I would have an awful lot of days where it was, hey, everyone, it's a write all hour day, so that I could sit and work on my novel. But, I shoot for the number, right? The 1667, but it really depends on the book that I'm working on, because some years especially in the beginning, it was kind of like, I have to get this done. But the more that I've done it, the more I find it's easier to hit those goals. And I try to go above the goal a little bit every day, just so I have a cushion. But honestly, it's what they've said, my husband knows it's November, see you later. I took my headphones in, and he can be watching TV, or I can be in my office, and see you in December is kind of a thing.
All righty. How do you structure your project? Do you have an outline, or are you just writing by the seat of your pants, if you're wearing any?
For the most part, I've usually just like sat down and went, I'm writing a sci-fi story. And I sit down and I start writing a story. This past few years, I actually outlined this book, which was the first thing I've ever done that. But it was a book between 2 currently published books, so it kind of needed to have that structure. I prefer just to sit down and write, because that's kind of the whole spirit of the thing for me. This year I have a synopsis I'm working off of, so it's just 2 pages of generally the storyline, and I'm just going to go from that.
Okay, Sarah?
Got the question.
How do
Oh,
you
yes, no.
Structure.
Okay, I'm sorry. I am a
do your
pantser, so
project?
I don't
You have your pants
outline.
on?
I'm terrible. I'm sorry. I don't outline. I know this is my goal. This is what I'm working on. And I do this with every book. I don't know what happens until I write it. So I kind of hit every project like that, because I get really excited when something fun comes out. And then I'm like the reader, I'm like, oh, that just happened. That's so cool. And it just kind of feeds the next round. So I just write for fun, like Darla said, and go from there. See what happens.
Yeah, all right. You, Kristine?
Well, my very first year doing NaNo, I didn't realize that it was like allowed, because I'm a big rule follower, to actually plan before November 1st. So like November 1st, I was like, I wonder what I should write about. I got smarter after that. So I don't really outline specifically, but I'll just do just the general, this is where I want to start, and probably going to go kind of this way. But I let my characters tell me. I like Sarah said, sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is what's happening. And I'm like,
So fun.
Okay. How are you preparing for NaNo 2021?
It's just another month for me.
It's just another month for you.
Just another month of writing. I just know I'm going into it to write. So most of the year I end up editing for other people, or revising a project, or doing other things. So this is my month where I just know I'm going to just sit and write and not worry about what it looks like right now, but just getting the words on the page. So I usually do like my extra house cleaning this month. I will do things that I know is going to distract me later on. Try to get my outdoor work done ahead of time, and know I can just focus on writing for November.
You, Sarah?
I just go into it knowing that I'm going to write 50,000 words, but this year is my first year where I have I have readers waiting for this book. So they've contacted me and I were like, give me a date. I'm like, okay, Christmas. So I am going into this one. I'm not preparing. I'm just going with life, but I'm going to finish this book and I'm going to edit it by the end of November and I'm going to publish it by Christmas. So I'm going in determined a lot.
Great. You, Kristine?
Sarah, all I can think of after you said that was best wishes.
Thank you. I can do it.
This year I am going to be writing a book around an idea that somebody else actually gave me. It's about one of the horses at the Mustang Rescue and Sanctuary that I'm involved with. And hopefully that's a 50,000 word story. And it will be, because I will write 50,000 words in November. The last couple of years, like I said, I was working on finishing the draft of my new novel that I have had readers waiting for about 6 years. And God bless them, they're still waiting. So
That's great that they're still waiting.
I know,
Okay.
and so good because it's really worth it.
It is. It always is, right?
I love this book that I wrote. I love the characters. Like, I want to hang out and have drinks with them. I have hung out and had drinks with them. So I'm really excited about that one and to see what I come up with for this November.
All righty. What do you do when you either hit a writer's block or a crossroad when you need to make an important decision in your plot and you really don't have time for that in doing NaNo? So how do you resolve those situations? Jean first.
Just skip right on ahead.
Mhm.
I just make a little note of this was what needs to happen here, and we'll get back to that later. Because you just want to keep the momentum going.
Right.
So just keep writing.
Just keep writing.
Don't
All
get
right.
distracted.
Sarah?
Well, I wish I could do that, Jean, but I have never been able to move past where I'm at and skip something and go back. So my biggest advice that I give myself and other people when they ask is write one sentence. If I don't know where I'm going or what I'm doing, or I'm bored, whatever it is, I write one sentence. And then if I need a break, I take one. And if I don't, then I write one more, and then I write one more until I hit that magic sentence where things just start going. And then you're past that. And I have this a lot during NaNoWriMo, I'm thinking, for a lot of people, but just one sentence can be all it takes. So that's the goal. The little engine that could.
All righty. You, Kristine?
Really what they've already said. I don't ever let myself stop and overthink things I'll write it out one way, and then I may put a note, like all in caps, in my draft that says, wow, that's really probably not the way you want to go. Maybe this, and then I'll write it the other way and just kind of roll with it. Because eventually the characters will tell me what needs to happen.
Yes.
And if they don't, then I know I'm not on the right track anyway. So
what do you do then when you find out that you're not on the right track? Do you take a different path?
I just write it the other way then.
The other way.
Yep. NaNo is all
Okay.
about getting the words on the page. Don't stop. Don't reread. Don't go back and start at the beginning again. Just write it.
Okay. That question kind of bleeds into the next one. How do you handle the different twists and turns in your story? Jean?
I just write through them. I mean, sometimes I've written stuff that just I know is not going to stay in there, but I need to pan it out and see what happens and go from there. And sometimes it's stuff that gets cut, and sometimes it's like, oh, I like that better than what I was thinking it was going to go. And so just let the scenes happen and feel free to write it from two different directions and see which one you like better.
Okay. Sarah?
Well, I think one thing I've learned about myself is that I never like what I write, but don't throw it out, because every time I'm like, I hated that book, my readers are like, but I loved that book. And I'm like, okay. So I am either bored or I'm excited and I just keep writing it. And if I get super bored, then I kill people off. It's a problem, but I do that a lot. So sometimes you just throw a glitch in and that's what keeps you going, because you just need to have a little fun with your characters and see how they handle it. And that can take you all kinds of places.
Kristine?
You know, they've already said it, but the other thing you can use also is, you know, the brains behind NaNoWriMo, they are constantly on a daily basis sending you ideas and pep talks and different things. And sometimes I've read one of their ideas, like the very first novel that I wrote for NaNo, I remember it was like, oh, if you're stuck, send your character, you know, grocery shopping. And I was like, well, that's stupid, blah, blah, blah. But then I did it, and it did it. Like, it just gets my fingers moving on the keyboard. And then it was like, oh, but wait, she meets this person and it just happens. If you don't stop, it will happen. I've actually started where I don't end a writing session like where an end of a chapter might be. I go into the next chapter, and I've even stopped mid-sentence sometimes, so that when I pick it up again, all I have to do is read the last couple sentences, and then I just keep writing.
Thank you. Let's talk about your NaNo 2021 project and your protagonist. Percentage-wise, how much of your project is ready to go, whether in scenes or in your head, whatever method of plotting you're using, percentage-wise, how much of your project is ready to go?
About 0.5%. I have that 1.5 page synopsis, and I'll just sit down and write. So that's more than I often start with. I've started a book with a person's name and knowing it was a fantasy story. And what happens from there? Yeah.
That's insane, Jean. That's insane.
That's insane, Jean.
I love you.
Love it.
That's this book right here.
Oh my God.
I had her name and I said, it's a fantasy story with a female main character, and go. Yep.
How about this time? Do you have your main character, your protagonist? Jean,
Who
no,
are we talking to?
No.
Jean. We're talking to Jean now. She has 0.5% ready. So no main character, nothing.
It's a young boy, it's a young person, and yeah, I don't assign names ahead of time. They just fly out of my fingers. So.
Oh my God, I love it.
Magic fingers. Sarah, how about you?
Well, I write like Jean. I don't know either, but this book, Seal 7, that I'm trying to finish is more than halfway done. So, I mean, it's different, I think, every NaNoWriMo for what you're working on and where you're at in a project, but I'm more than halfway done. So I kind of know where I'm going. And it's the 7th in my series, which is the last one before part 2, which is the next 7. So this one's difficult because I have plot points to tie up, and I have to end it with a resolution where the reader won't hate me, but also leave it open for when I do continue the series, which I would love to take a break. So there's a lot going into it, and that scares me, but I'm going to do it anyway. We're going to see what happens.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay, Kristine.
I know that I am writing a story about a horse named Thor.
That's
It's
it.
a black Frisian. That's all I've got so far. So
0.5%.
less than Jean.
That's more than 0.5, right?
Panzers unite. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, which plotting method, if any, do you use? The seeds and the index cards, the roller coaster plot, the 9-step plot dot, or save the cat 15 beat sheet, and why? Jean first.
When I would instruct the Young Writers Program, I did that for years and years with elementary school and middle school and high school kids, and I would always have them do the roller coaster, just because it's easy to see and use. Personally, I don't use anything, but people going into it not knowing how they write, I would suggest starting with one of those just so you don't get lost. And if you've never written anything before, it's good to have some sort of guide to what you're planning on doing. Having written many books, I kind of know my process and know how I work best. And so I just go with it from there now.
Sarah?
This is my plotting method. Post-it notes. That's when I have an idea, I write it down. Above my computer here is a giant board full of them. And then I have another one over here, and there's this one behind me too, has a few sprinkled, but that's how I plot. If I think of something, I write it down. And if it gets written in, awesome. If it doesn't, I crumble it up and throw it away.
Kristine?
Yeah, I don't really have a set plot that I, plan that I follow like that. I start where I feel my characters need to start, and I just roll with it. The draft of They Said She Was Crazy, when I started NaNo with that one, I ended up writing this complete backstory for one of my characters that I had no intention originally of writing. And as I still remember sitting on my couch working on it thinking, where's all this coming from? And I'm like, well, it's all right. You'll get to your 1,700 words, whatever today. And it actually became a really important part of the story of the character. So if I had been following a set plan, that wouldn't have happened. So I just roll with it.
You're
Which, as a
roller.
former teacher
You're
of writing,
high
is kind of
roller.
sad, but that's what I do.
Okay, what do you do when you get the halfway sluggish fatigue in your writing process during NaNo?
That is a serious thing.
Point. How do you deal with that?
Just keep writing. That is generally the answer. Yeah, set somebody on fire, kill somebody, do something that makes, I mean, something that like gets you going. It makes you think, yes, okay, well, I know where I'm usually by about the halfway point, you know what you need to do to get to the end. You kind of have an idea where you're heading, hopefully, maybe. Yeah, so you just set something on fire.
You set something on fire.
Make it
Excellent.
interesting.
That's interesting. Sarah, what do you do when you get that fatigue?
Same thing. I mean, I just keep going, but what I found is really helpful for me is just having that partner for the competition. There's just something about saying, what's your word count? And hearing where they're at. And you're like, oh, you're too close, or you're ahead of me. And then that will just spur me on. I'll be like, oh no, you're not winning. I'm going to win. So if you're competitive at all, I highly recommend finding someone to compete with.
Kristine?
Yeah, I hate to lose. So, I mean, sometimes it's as simple as just, right? Like, I mean, people that know me will be shocked by this, but I'm kind of competitive. So sometimes it's just as simple as going outside and like breathing some fresh air, or writing in a different place. But yeah, I just keep muddling through. I'm like, there's only 30 days in November. You can do this for 30 days. So, I mean, it's a commitment. It seems crazy that, there's no, I mean, the prize is that we get to buy a t-shirt. So, it's just really a mental commitment that you make, and you either do it. And there have been years where I haven't been able to, and it is what it is, but I still come back every year.
Okay. We're going to open up to the audience for questions because we only have a few, like 10 minutes left. So if you could post your questions in the chat box. Colleen, Diane, can you post your questions? And if you don't have any, then I am going to continue interrogating these fine authors.
Interrogating.
That was just
That sounds like a good way to get some more words and set them on fire or set up an interrogation.
Yes.
Right? That was just a joke. All right, we have no questions from the audience, so I will continue. Accountability and buddies. Who are your accountability buddies? Jean.
The current now that took over for me, ML, we always had this kind of a thing. We kind of write at the same sort of pace and speed through the month. And so we kind of do the whole thing where I look at her word count and go, gosh, she's ahead of me, and I'll sit and I'll write, and now she's like, oh no, you're ahead of me, and she sits and writes. And so we kind of do that through the whole month, and it works out really well. Just having that one person, like Sarah said, that you're kind of in a competition with, or a group of people that you kind of see their word count, and it's like it just drives you to at least meet that word count or exceed it, so now you're ahead. It's crazy little things like that.
Okay, Sarah.
Yep, I have my writing buddy. My husband's best friend, as I mentioned, is an author. So I typically write faster than him, but he doesn't hold it against me and still does his best. But I have the privilege this year of having so many more author friends on Facebook that I've met in the last couple of years. And I'm so new that I'm still building that tribe. But it's really nice to be able to just, hey, how are you doing on NaNoWriMo, and where are you at? So that I have someone else out there who may be at the same, like Jean, like Darla said, Jean, I never know what to call you, that same pace as I am. Like, okay, you're close. That's good. Now I know I have a little competition going on if he's not where I'm at. So having more than one person out there is good. I like having that.
Kristine.
Yeah, I have different people every year that will reach out and say, you know, are you doing Nano this year? Can I be your buddy? And then I also, I belong to a writing group that meets every Thursday morning in Ionia. And so it's every week they're interrogating me. That was actually a good word for it. And they're like, how are you doing? Why are you behind? What are you doing? And then when we write there, the prompts that we give also, I can work those into Nano. So I just use that as another boost, like, and actually some of the prompts over the years from that Thursday morning group, when I was working through my revisions on my new novel before I gave it to my beta readers, I was like, oh, I remember that. That was a prompt from Word Gatherers. So keeps me
They
honest.
brought up a good point about the local groups. If you have a region, a local region, and you're active with Nano, that's a great thing to get involved with. My local region that I used to be in charge of, that I retired from, they're very active. So there's write-ins to go to. There's lots of word challenges where you add words to the story or do word wars with those people. And so having that group to rely on has been great as far as just encouragement and urging you to write each day.
Okay, Colleen, you had a question?
Jean went ahead and started questions that I posted there, which was because you were inquiring about accountabilities and people and buddies and whatnot. But as a multiple year participant in NaNoWriMo, there's a lot of local groups and that are fantastic to get. I was wondering if any of the participants had any of the other authors had actually joined any of their local groups to reap the benefits of that and what they thought.
Jean?
Yeah, so I used to be in charge of my local group. So I did that for 9 years. So I was organizing write-ins and the kickoff parties and all that good stuff and all the online things. And now it's all online, which the person who took over for me, she kind of got off really easy on that. But yeah, that's a great resource to get into, to use. Those people right now, we're all in Discord. So that's a whole Discord group that you're involved with, and you can ask each other if you're like, I'm stuck in this plot, what do you think I should do? Or, you know, what words should we throw in? Everyone throws into their story today, and it just gives you something to kind of keep you going. And like, oh, today we're using 1,000 forks in your story. So there you go, have fun with that. And then everybody kind of posts. That ended up in one of my books. And like you said, I go back and read it. I'm like, oh yeah, that was a word challenge. That was a word challenge. But just we go back and post like the sentence in which you used it, so everybody can kind of see like, oh, you can really think outside the box and use it like this. Yeah, and Nano posts a lot of questions or suggestions like that too themselves without having to be in a region. It's great. And I also have my talent group that where a lot of us participate. So that group also helps do with accountability.
Sarah, are you in any groups?
I was before COVID. And like I said, this is my first Zoom. So when they started doing that, I was out. I actually don't like being on camera. But I think they're meeting again in person. So I perhaps will go back. We'll see. I don't know. And I'm sorry for my dogs. They won't be quiet.
That's all right. Christine?
I did join my local group in Lansing. I went to a number of things a few years ago, but with with COVID, everything was virtual. And so I chose not to do it virtually because I was feeling very overwhelmed with all the virtual things. It was, I know, Jean, I've read where you've posted that, you were prolifically writing during the lockdown. And for me, it really was the opposite. It hit me hard. It was like my characters, all three of my characters, it was like they shut the door, closed the windows, and were like, sorry.
Yeah.
They're like, later, bitches, we're out. And I was like, okay. And I couldn't force it. Like, I can't force my characters to participate. And it was really hard, but they came back. Luckily that didn't happen during NaNo, so that was good. So I write with my Thursday group, but I don't belong to any local, specifically NaNo groups right now.
All right, Colleen has a second question.
Everyone was discussing the word count goal thing earlier, and trying to reach that and everything. I know that for me, I try to work ahead, especially at the beginning of the month when motivation is very high, because you guys were talking about that midpoint slump as well. So does anyone try to do that? Try to bank a heavier word count when you are feeling motivated, when you have that extra oomph, even if it is like 2/3 of the way through, just to get ahead a little bit so you can afford yourself those slower days.
Definitely. Yes. I try to get your goal, and using the graph on the NaNo site where you put in your word count every day, and you can look at it and go, oh, I got to be above the line every day, and then see how far above you are. And that's kind of fun. It's just kind of the little incentive of putting your stupid word count in and seeing your dot for the day and where you are is exciting. But yes, try to bank some, because there's always going to be some family thing that comes up, or you get sick, or whatever it is. You're not going to meet your word goal every single day, and to be able to have that buffer just takes the stress off, where you can just go, okay, today I'm not going to make it, and it's okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
It's all right. All right, before we do our parting shots, I would like to thank our sponsors, Doc Chavent and Digital Quill Services for Writers with author Colleen. Parting shots, Jean first.
Oh boy, I'm gonna go with just keep writing. I'm just gonna put a little Dory voice on it. Just keep writing, just keep writing. Yes, because that is what you gotta do all NaNo.
Sara.
I don't know what a parting shot is, but I'm going to guess it's a motivational